I want to tell you today about the best decision I ever made. The best decision I ever made was to join the Air Force. The second best decision I ever made was to get out. I had always had the dream to get my college education. I really wanted to be the first person in my family to graduate from college, and it was something that was it was a big deal for me. So in 2004, I entered into the Air Force, and a lot of great things happened to me while I was there. I was able to go to South Korea. I met Melissa. I went to Afghanistan, Haiti, and Japan, and I received I learned a lot of things while I was there. But after I got back from Japan, I got the opportunity to go to a really great school. So I had to make a decision about staying in the Air Force or getting out and going to school in Philadelphia. And as sometimes happens, when I submitted my separation paperwork to go to school, I got a word that I got an offer to work at the White House. And so now I had a really tough decision. I had to decide whether I wanted to document events there at the White House, fly around on Air Force One and document our first African-American president, or still get out and go to Philadelphia. So this is one of the critical decisions that I made, is that it's like something didn't really sit well with me. I didn't understand what it was about going to the White House that just didn't sit easy with me. And I realized what it was that I didn't want to sit behind a camera and document important people doing important things. Really what I wanted to do was go to Philadelphia and be one of those important people. Sorry. What I wasn't prepared for when I left the Air Force was a lot of the challenges of being an adult student. So, for instance, I had to relearn how to learn. Like I hadn't done math in a decade, so I had to relearn how to do the math. And I was 10 years older than other students in the class, so I really didn't relate. And it just made things a little bit more difficult. I had to learn how to say no. I was trying to take on way too many things. Because like in the military, I learned, if you see a problem, then solve the problem. So if you identify a problem, and you better bring some solutions to that problem. And at school, I was identifying problems all over the place because I just wasn't comfortable. I was the older guy, but I wasn't solving anything. So I just was getting overwhelmed, and it was a lot more challenging than I had anticipated. But I learned to integrate with the younger students, and it was vital for me to be successful in school. As I started to get closer to graduation, I started getting really excited. I was excited about all the different opportunities that were coming my way, and all the different career opportunities that I could do. But I had identified one that I really wanted to get into, and that was in consulting. So, beginning my senior year, I show up to school and I realized that recruiting for consulting had already started before I even got to my senior year, and I was already woefully behind. So I started to apply to the different consulting jobs through on-campus recruiting, and I wasn't getting called in for any interviews. I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, well, come on, I'm going to a good school, and I've got all this military experience. I mean, what's the deal? So I start going to the recruiting events on campus, and I wait in line. I've got my resume, and I've got my nice little suit on, and so I'm going to go meet the recruiters who are like 5 years younger than I am. They're a couple years out of school, and I go over there and I shake their hand, and they're looking at me like, who is this guy, and why is he so old, right? And I'm like, okay. So I launch into my elevator pitch and tell them about my military experience, and they would just be like, some of them were polite. They'd take my resume and be like, okay, well, I'll take a look at it. But most of them would tell me, hey, what you should do, since you're an experienced hire, is go online, go to our website, find a job you want, and then just apply that way. And I'm like, oh, great. That's that's going to be tough. So I did that, and I got a couple like informational interviews, but when I talked to them at the end of it, they would be like, you know what you should do, since you don't have any experience, is you should go talk to the campus recruiter, because they're really going to be the ones that are going to help you out. And I was like, oh. So starting to get a little bit worried, because as this went on, I was halfway through my senior year, and everybody else had jobs basically at this time, and they had jobs for after school. And I was starting to worry about, oh, I'm going to be unemployed if I don't figure this out. And as Melissa had mentioned, she supported me in that transition, and I was starting to get worried. And I couldn't quite figure it out, so I started networking like crazy. I went to a bunch of networking events and tried to network in that way, and it was kind of the similar results, and I really didn't know what it was. But thankfully, I was introduced to this program called American Corporate Partners. Now, American Corporate Partners is a nonprofit organization that pairs corporate executives with transitioning military members. And they help the military member kind of talk through their military experiences and how to communicate their military skills in civilian terms, so like in the corporate world. And that was vital. And what I want to do is I want to show you a couple iterations. I went through and I took like snapshots of my resume. I want you to show that this is what it kind of looks like in that transition, because it's a pretty vulnerable space. Veterans, there's the veterans that need help, and there's a lot of, but I believe there's more veterans that don't really need like help like for anything that's traumatic. They just need a little bit of guidance. And what I needed, I just really need somebody to help me with my resume, so that I could, because that's what it was, is that for keyword searches when submitting my resume, that's not getting picked up, as you'll see. And it was really that I wasn't able to communicate what I did in the military in corporate terms to where that they could actually identify me and see me as a value to their organization. Now, keep in mind, I was applying for consulting jobs, and I was applying for jobs in the finance industry. All right, so this is the first iteration. Okay, now this I used bits of it to get into school, and as you can see here, I have expert marksmanship. So this picture, you're hiring people. You're in a position to hire people. And this resume, I don't know how it would make it to your desk. It's probably because I snuck it in and put it in there. But this, you see this. I mean, try to envision hiring this guy, right? So expert marksmanship. I'm SEER certified. So SEER certified means that I have skills in survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. That basically means, I can get out of any meeting that you schedule me for. I can do it. So this is what I was sending in, and I was like, I'm marketable, because I'm about to graduate from school, and I was in the military. So American Corporate Partners, I get my very first mentor. His name's Keith, and he worked for a company called BlackRock. So Keith and I would sit down and we would go over my resume, and this is the second iteration. So as you see here, I'm kind of highlighting that my title was combat correspondent. I was an aerial combat videographer, so I took video from the sky. And I'm still trying to communicate to consulting firms and finance industries that I'm a good hire to them. Now, mind you, I don't really have any employment history except for this in school. So they're like trying to see me as a potential employee, and this is what they're getting. They're getting an aerial combat videographer, and this is obviously why I had a lot of trouble. So here, combat crisis response operations, and it's just really vague. Like it's really tough for somebody to really picture me in a role at their organization. I mean, heck, I was on 29 combat missions. We captured 101 Al-Qaeda targets. I mean, that's good stuff. That's what you're looking for when you're hiring people, right? So, I mean, I was like, this is gold. When I was writing this, I mean, that took me a long time to write too, right? So I didn't just like kind of put this together and send it in. This took me a really long time. Look, I refuted insurgent propaganda. I should work on the Republican campaigns right now and protect people from Trump right here. So, yeah, and, all right. So, and I was awarded Air Force Combat Action Medal for actions performed while under enemy fire. So in meetings, I can perform well, hopefully. But really what it came down to is this is my current resume. And this is by no means, it's still a work in progress, but basically what I've concentrated on now is communicating this in corporate terms so that maybe it'll help just communicate my military experience in clearer terms. So I've grouped it all into the timeline that I spent in the Air Force. And the thing to remember is that my old resumes, they meant something in the military. They meant something to me and to other people that were in the military. They know what I'm talking about. So I had to change that to make myself marketable. So I changed the combat correspondent to public affairs manager. And that just makes it a little bit more approachable and applicable to the organization. Manage a 10-person team, was able to integrate in high-stress environments, built lasting relationships, delivered under tight deadlines, and some other things that were a little bit more approachable. And thankfully, that has helped me get to where I am today. I was able to get the job that I really wanted, and I was able to get it at the firm that I really, really wanted because I truly believe that they support veterans, and I'm so thankful to get there. Looking back on the decision to either go to the White House or go to school, I'm really glad that I chose to go to school. So, yeah, I think that best days are ahead of me. Thanks.